It is an honor with an element of personal pride that I get to introduce Marciano. Marciano Martinez is one of those rare people who decided on an occupation as a young child and ended up going into that occupation. This is particularly noteworthy because he wanted to be an artist and became one professionally. Marciano's education began at Claremont's then segregated elementary school for Mexicans. He retired as a professor of art at Fullerton College. Marciano views his art as a connection between nature and creation. He describes his life as being blessed by a series of guardian angels who made it possible for the gifts and generosity of others to create the opportunities that allowed him to become an artist in this life. He has painted on 4 continents and continues to paint today. Please welcome Marciano Martinez.
I'm delighted to be here. I am shaking like this, but you know what? Happy as hell. I want to thank each and every one of you, especially those of you who were my children, who are my children. I've got 3, 1 great-great-great-grandson, the bald-headed guy here, my daughter, and my grandson. I'm so proud of him because he's already published a book. Can you believe that? It goes many years ago. My daughter gave me a present. Here's your geno test. And so I found out that in my genes, I go back to the south of France, Lascaux Caves, and my ancestors are the ones that painted those caves. Unbelievable. I thought you might be interested in that one. Ah, that girl. Parents from MEXICO, both of them. And to have come here to the United States, my father married this young girl at 13 years old, she was. Unbelievable. He had just lost his grocery store. Prior to that, he wanted to become a priest. So he went to school, went to seminary. I think what happened was, so I think I know what happened because it kind of happened to me. Saw the girls, I'm out of here. So he came to this country. He opened up a grocery store in Los Angeles and met this young lady, 13 years old. The market was so bad that he lost his store, came to Claremont, and got himself a job as a gardener. And guess what? Oh, got one here. He planted these trees 100 years ago, and they're still giving fruit, as well as his ancestry. My son, my daughter, my grandson, and all of you. I'm so delighted to be here now. I see nature as a celebration of God. And one of the reasons for that is that my father, when he came to this city of Claremont, and he could not buy on 10th and College, where he wanted to buy and could have afforded to buy. No, Mr. Martinez, you have to buy in the Barrio. Okay? And you have to buy in the San Bernardino Barrio. So he did. several years later, a few years later, well, first of all, my sister was born, and later on I'll show you a picture of her. And she was born, I just went to see her the other day. She still lives in the green tree, Árbol Verde, the green tree, 101. She's still alive and kicking. Unbelievable. She still lives there. And she's what my priest used to say, Marciano, that's not a coincidence, that's a God incident. The God incident is that she worked at Claremont Men's College for 60 years as in the kitchen, feeding all those professors and all those students. Can you believe how many people they came about? 60 years at Claremont Men's College, Harvey Mudd College, whatever name you want to call it now. Unbelievable. Okay. My birth, 1939. I'm only 50 though, you know. Plus. And born in 1939, 636 East First Street. So when I saw this morning, and I looked at my 636, I said, I better get up. So Claremont Barrio was an unbelievable place for me because I had a beautiful church next to me where my father had already bought one place. He bought the other place next to the church. And I remember when I was, let's go back to my dad first. May God bless him. I remember when he took me to the pool hall next to the church. There's a pool hall. And I see this little glass, and I fell in love with the glass. Coca-Cola. He says, you want a Coca-Cola? I want that one. I'm 2 años. 2 years of age. So I get this. And to this day, every time I paint, I go like this. The side of that Coca-Cola glass. Imagine what these children can do now with all this computer stuff going on. Unbelievable. The other wonderful thing to do, pardon me, that happened to me was that having lived next to the wonderful church when I was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all those years, these women would come and paint. I remember the women more than I do the guys and the old man that would teach them. And I would get in there and watch them paint. There were students at Pomona College. Amazing that I would see these beautiful paintings. And the beautiful paintings are unbelievable. And not till recently did I realize that those teachers that they had were Millard Sheets, Phil Dyke, Milford Zornes, all my professors, and people that became a part of my life at such an early part of life. It was unbelievable. You could see the place where the line, the county line, my father wanted to buy at LA County because a part of it was segregated still. And even when I went to first grade kindergarten, we were sent to a special place to learn to speak English. Porque yo hablaba solamente español. I only spoke Spanish. And so did the rest of those Latino, Mexican, American, Mexican children. Picture of my mom and dad. Here's my mom going to the store, And this older man, 27 years old, and she's 13 years old, falls in love with her and says, "I want to marry you." And she said, "Okay." They got married. They had 11 children. 11 children. As a matter of fact, the last one was born after he passed away. I have to say this story because it changed my life also. He said this to each one of us children. I'm 4 years old when he passed away. Take care of your mother. I still think of that message. And I know that I'm too young to take care of my mom. But I tried. And each one of us had the same information and the same request from my dad. That was the last thing he said to me. But what I did in my own mind, I would see people like Phil Dyke that I went to see one time. First time I remember seeing him, I went to see this young son that he had. I was in 10th grade, 11th grade, I forget exactly what grade. And he said, "Oh, Marciano, what is in the other room?" And so I saw him and I said, "He's my new dad." You sort of place these men to become a part of your life. And later on, when he became my advisor at Claremont Graduate School, he was absolutely a wonderful, wonderful dad that I've never told anybody before. I just told Woody today for the first time, and I'm telling you all for the first time ever. My wonderful mother loved plants. And guess what? I love plants too, but I plant more trees than flowers. But my younger brother, who is supposed to be here today, he said he'd be here. I went to see him yesterday, and he had all kinds of beautiful flowers, et cetera, et cetera. I said, "I'm thinking of my mom." And he says, "I do that every day." So we help my mom water the plants, do the housework, et cetera, and that's how we got to know everything that we had to know. One of the things that happened when my dad did come, got a job over here as a gardener who planted some of these trees. He started a school, La Escuela Mexicana de Claremont. There's a photograph of there, and there to the bottom of the row, in the middle of the picture, is my sister, Eusebia, or nickname, Cheva. Cheva, that is still my gosh, my mom, she's my sister, she's my guardian angel. And she still knows who in the heck I am, except sometimes she thinks I'm her younger son. Anyhow, when my dad did buy in Los Angeles County next to the church, and you look up to you open the door in the front of the house, and you see the view up there. Mount Baldy, isn't that beautiful? Especially after the rain and the snows and all that, and you see the white snow, white caps. It's still there. That was my front yard, looking at the world like that. It was unbelievable. And this is a painting of one of the paintings which I did, remembering my front yard. Doesn't belong to me, but it belongs to all of us to be in front of Mount Baldy, Padua Hills, etc. By the way, my sisters, the other sisters, became actresses at Padua Hills Theater. And they really, really fell in love with that place, as I did also. I even was asked by one of my sisters, hey, you want to go wash dishes at Padua Hills? Of course. Wash dishes at Padua Hills. As well as in Claremont Men's College. I washed dishes when I was in 9th grade also. So again, this community of Claremont and the colleges has been a part of my life all my life. I still remember when I was in 7th grade, I said, absolutely, I have to become an artist. And I saw my brother, the older brother, that was teaching there, and I went to his room and I said, okay, I want a job like that. He was in the back of the class. I'm in 7th grade, and he's in the back. Daniel Martinez, as well as my dad's name, by the way. He became like a dad to me also, because our job, my mother would give us a job, take care of your younger brother, take care of your younger sister, that was our job. And it happened all the time. It continued to happen to me with all my students. They became my younger brothers and sisters. And although one time there was this young lady that came into my class in 1971, something like that. And I'm waiting in the class, nobody's in there yet, and she comes, are you Mr. Martinez? And I said, yes. And she comes to the front of the class and sits down in front. Nobody else there yet. All of a sudden the class is filled up and all that stuff. And I think, and last day of class, the last day of class, I say to everybody, thank you very much for being such good students, et cetera, et cetera. And this lady that came in takes her books and still walks up to the hall. And I thought to myself, I'm going to ask her to have lunch or dinner with me. So I followed her on the hallway, tapped her on the shoulder. I said, Miss Izagara, would you like to have lunch or dinner with me sometime? And she says, I would like that. Walks away.
How long have you been married now?
Why didn't I marry her?
How long?
About a year later, we got married. And these are the connections that are unbelievable. Unbelievable connections. We wouldn't be here. Can you imagine that? Would we be here right now? Okay, never mind about the gut incident. But let me go back to another gut incident. At the church where I grew up, my father died, and we went to pick figs. I still love figs. And I was, 5 years old by this time, you know? A can of paint, fill it up, fill the boxes up, pick the dried fruit, pick it up. 5th grade, I meet this elderly gentleman, Milford Zornes. He's in the hall, and he's drawing and all that, painting little figures, etc. And I thought, he's going to make a portrait of me. Guess what? He did not make a portrait of me. He made a portrait of Michelle Glenn. Michelle Glenn's mother bought that painting And I saw it many years later when I went to a party at her house, and that was the portrait that Milford Zornes did of him. I painted with Milford. We became good friends, another one of my dads. And I remember one time, he's already 80, and I'm driving him to somewhere in another state, Iowa or wherever. And he says, Marciano, we have to stop and do some painting so that we can earn our dinner. So we stopped close to Las Vegas, over there in Las Vegas, and we did a painting of the hillside and the mountainside, whatever. And then he got, okay, we've earned our steak. So we go to the restaurant and order steak. He orders steak for me. And on this trip, he says to me, I'm driving, and already he's 80-something. Marciano, I want you to come to my 100th birthday party. I said, okay. And I did. After Our Lady of the Assumption was built, I still attended Sacred Heart Chapel and received my religious instruction at Sacred Heart Chapel. And I got to know people like Harrison McIntosh, Marguerite McIntosh. Oh yeah, they had a daughter. She was just a little girl. She's out there somewhere. Could you raise your hand? There you are. You were just a little girl. So I did my confirmation at OLA, Our Lady of the Assumption. That priest that's to the right of the big guy with the hat, his name is Father Strange. When I was when I was 10 years old, playing kick the can in front of a house because we had a light in front and on the road, and we played kick the can. And he says, Marciano, I want you to be my altar boy. Father, I don't know how to speak Latin. Don't worry, we'll teach you. I became an altar boy for the rest of my life, just about. 10 years later, I was an altar boy. And I was, more than anything, would go to the ceremonies to bury the dead. So life and death has been with me forever. I already mentioned the story about my other dad, Phil Dyke. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful artist. To have done Fantasia, to have painted all those boats, and even though I didn't go out to paint with him, I found out the work that he did and the art, the book that he had, etc. I fell in love with his work, as I had way before this, and again, wonderful guy. Another lovely, lovely lady who was my art teacher, Nancy Swift. Nancy Swift was with us when I was in a junior and senior year for sure, maybe sophomore year, I don't remember that. But called when Richard and I was a junior and he was a sophomore, called Millard Sheets and said, can you accept them at school for the summer and not pay for it? Yeah, no problem, got it. Went in there, took a class from Joseph Magnani. First time, now listen, I had 5 sisters. I have never seen any of these sisters undraped in all my life. When I see this lady undraped in front of God and everybody, oh, I said, that's what they've been hiding all these years? I taught life drawing for the rest of my career at Cal Poly Pomona. And it's so interesting that,
Slide.
and even at Fullerton College. But even then, in high school, when Nancy says, I want you to go to see Rembrandt at Pomona College. Have you ever been there? And I did, and I fell in love with this guy, Rembrandt, and later on I took a class from him during the summer. Unbelievable guy, fantastic guy. Oh, Mrs. Allamshaw. On 6th Street and Mills, she lived there with her husband, who was a dean of men at Claremont Men's College, said to me, Marciano, I want you to know, here I just finished mowing the lawn. I want you to know that you're going to go to Claremont Men's College and everything's already taken care of. Stupido, moi, said, oh, Mrs. Allamshaw, I don't want to be a businessman. I want to be an artist. And her mouth just fell. How crazy of this young, dumb child not having accepted that. But again, it's a God incident. You have to think that way, because otherwise it's not fair. 20 some odd years later, when I got the job at Fullerton Community College, I go get my keys, and the lady said to me, oh, you're from Claremont? Yes. Do you know Mrs. Allamshaw? This is years later. I said, yes. Do you have her phone number? I didn't ask if she was still alive or anything. I just, oh yes, I do. And she gave me her number. I called her that evening and I said, Mrs. Allamshaw, thank you so much for the wonderful offer that you gave me a whole bunch of years ago, and I so appreciate all that you did for me at that time. And I'll never forget her kindness and love. Another woman or teacher that this young lady, Nancy Swift, introduced me to was Sister Mary Corrida at Immaculate Heart College. She would just get us in a car and go there, and taught me to this day. I think of when I paint, especially my non-objective, my abstract stuff, tear a piece of paper, put it down, paint it, etc., etc. I did get a scholarship from Pratt Art Institute in New York, the College of Arts and Crafts at Oakland, and partly was because of the when I won that award that Sister Corrida gave me, it became a beautiful thing. Anyway, so I went to the College of Arts and Crafts because I couldn't figure a way to get to New York. So I could always hitchhike to go to New York. But before that, I got a scholarship to go to San Carlos University in Guatemala City. So I went to Guatemala City for the summer, but I stayed the year. Guess what? To this day, I still have friends who reply to me on Instagram. Hey, Marciano, how are you doing? Whatever. From 1959 to the present time. You add the years, and I'm still alive and get that information. When I did go to Claremont Graduate School, I got my master's, I got all these. I went to teach at Cal Poly Pomona, junior high school, Cal Poly Pomona, Claremont High School, and Fullerton College for 40 some odd years. the last day of my class at Fullerton Community College, it's no longer community college, it's Fullerton College, I did get a surprise present, which I'll tell you in a minute. When I was there at this graduate school, Richard and I had ridden our bicycles to go down to Pomona High School to take a class from Robert George. Robert George he taught art this summer, this particular summer. I forget what year it was, but anyway, maybe 8th grade or 9th grade or 10th grade, I forget what year. And later on, he asked me to help him paint a mural at the OLA, or Our Lady of the Assumption Church. So I said, fine. He wanted to paint a fresco. I said, no way, man. A fresco is about 100 years too old, and it's going to last maybe not more than 34 years, etc. And I designed, and mostly my work, and I added this and a triptych on wood and painted it on a new paint at the time called acrylic, and it's still there. Thanks to somebody that you might know, my lovely daughter, Father Greg Boyle, was gotten to him by Albion River when the priest wanted to make a bathroom out of that, and I had told Robert George, they're going to make a bathroom out of this 50 years from now, and guess what? That's exactly what happened. And because of Father Boyle and Father Albion, my friend that just passed away just a month ago, Albion River, they talked to the priest and said, no way. This young man, Adrian St. John Martinez, my firstborn son, when he was 4 years old, his mother said to me, I'm leaving you. And I said, okay. I was ready to teach at Claremont High School at the time. And I said, can I take Adrian to Europe? Oh, take him as long as you want. I did. I took him to Europe with me. We spent the summer of 1967 and had the best time in the world. I bought myself a squareback Volkswagen, and we went all over. We went to Greece, we went to all over Europe, including England. When I did teach at Fullerton Community College from 1970 to 2014, those are the people that I worked with. And the last day, which I just dropped that hint a little while ago, my students said, we have a surprise for you. I said, well, thank you very much for that wonderful dinner. Asian dinner. We have Chinese people, we have Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese, and a few Anglo guys, you know. And I get this fellowship from South Korea to go for 6 months. Like a nitwit, I said, no, I'll go for a month. And they said, no, minimum of 3 months. Okay, I went for 3 months. I should have gone for 6 months. They treated me like royalty. The mayors, I had exhibits in all the big cities in Korea. The mayors of the city would say to me, Marciano, you're going to be better known in Korea than you are in America. Not now. Thanks to you guys. But I said, oh, great. Another place that I would spend my Christmas time. One time we went to Yosemite, and this particular place had an art workshops going on at the time. And this young 7-year-old of mine, or 8 years old by this time, little girl, said to the teacher, oh, by the way, my dad is an art teacher. Oh, really? Oh, would you like a job? I taught at Yosemite for the next 14 years during Christmas. And that's how we would spend our time doing art and teaching up in the mountains. Prior to that, I went to paint all over, especially houses and all kinds of things. When I fell in love with Laguna Beach, and I realized, oh, I don't want to be by the beach, it's going to be too foggy and all that stuff. I want to go up to the mountains, so I go up to the hillsides. I should have bought the one down by the beach. It was at that time $21,000. So I bought up on the hill later. It cost $50,000, but now it's worth about more than now. This church was where this young man got married a few years ago, and now I have 6 beautiful grandchildren, thanks to this young man and his beautiful wife. I never forget painting abstractly because of Sister Mary Olga, Phil Dyke, and all the other people that I worked with, Robert E. Wood, Rex Brandt, and all these fantastic instructors that I've had in my life. Unbelievable. So the previous book that you just saw was Robert E. Wood, and I hope to copy that book exactly so I can make a painting book like that. But some of the workshops that I would go to would be Manzanar, and I got to meet Henry Fukuhara at Robert E. Wood's workshop and saw him. He got sick, died 2 days after I saw him one time, and he says, before he died, Marciano, if you walk in here and I'm asleep, wake me up. Well, last time I couldn't wake him up, he was dead. Now, when I go painting, I paint Sedona, I paint my backyard, and I use art as my life and my abstraction to put things together, etc., etc., etc. And this is what I do and hopefully do for the rest of my life. This is where we just had a little workshop, not too far away from here. I'm one of the art people that went there and painted. Now this is my backyard. Come and paint with me. And one of these days, I'll come closer to Claremont so that you guys could, hey, I know that old man. I'm going to paint with him. Here's a couple of my works. Some of them were painted not there, but at the beach. And continue to paint, continue to paint, continue to paint. My family. Oh my God, my paintings. They should be in your house. Buy art. Buy my art. You remember that, right? Buy art. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for inviting me. Delighted to be here. But I hope that you come to my exhibit right here on Indian Hill at the park. Danke, danke, danke. Thank you. Gracias. Arigato, That's what happens when you travel the world.